It's been a long time. So it's been a really long time. As you know, I was traveling. I had 2 trips back to back. So I kind of went, I was away for a week. I had a really busy week at work. I was away for a week. I had a really busy week at work. And then my husband and I both got COVID. I was sick for like a week and a half, and then I was visiting with family. So I feel like it's been over a month since I did a podcast, which is weird. I'm not apologizing. Like, life happens. I don't have a schedule to keep, but now I've got like so much to say I can't even remotely say it in one podcast. A lot's been going on. When I was sick, I certainly slowed down, but I never stopped knitting / crocheting. I worked on a lot, but I don't think I made like a ton of progress while I was sick because I was just, slower in general, didn't have as much energy to devote to it. But I've got a ton of projects. I keep looking at them. I'm sorry. I keep looking at them, but I've got so many projects next to me. Not just because I've got a lot going, but because I've also had the like seasonal switch, right? It's not summer anymore, and I don't feel like working on the handful of in progress summer knits I had. So I'm setting them aside, but I brought them up to show you the status of them before I set them aside. And then I've also pulled out all of the seasonal knits that I put away at the beginning of the warm season that I said I was going to wait until it cooled down. So there's some here that we haven't seen in a while. I made a little progress on some of them. Some of them I didn't do anything but pull them out of storage. But I'm also going to do this in like a weird order. I know I usually do the sort of standard knitting podcast, finished objects and then whips and then acquisitions. But I feel like I've got a different story to tell with this batch. It's like a lot of my decisions to cast things on were based on an acquisition or, shuffled around because of the seasonal stuff. And it just doesn't super make sense for me to go in that order this time. So I'm not going to. So happy fall, first of all. We haven't spoken since the season's changed. I'm loving fall. It has been uncharacteristically seasonal here in upstate New York. I feel like we normally have a lot more like super hot days late into September and October. And we did have some hot days in September, but for the most part, it kind of just like turned into fall and stayed fall, which is really cool. That's not how it usually happens. I'm going to start by talking about this Christmas gift temperature blanket that I've been working on because I was so optimistic and so insistent for most of this year that I was going to finish this by the end of September, which is, of course, laughable. It's about a third of the way done. So I haven't made a lot of progress. I don't think I've shown it on here in a while. So this is, it's a Christmas gift, but it's for my sister who got married on Labor Day. So it's going to be a temperature blanket from her wedding day to her first anniversary. So I now have all the data I need and all the colors that I'm going to do. But this is Labor Day through basically New Year's, a couple days after New Year's. So I'm only in January and I've got 9 months more to crochet. I've been doing a different texture for each month. I don't know how visible it is. Try not to hit my microphone. So I did Tunisian simple stitch. I switched to Tunisian knit stitch. No, excuse me. I did Tunisian full stitch, switched to knit stitch, then simple stitch, and then started over again with another full stitch. So I'm just going to rotate those 3 textures. Just to kind of differentiate between the months, just to differentiate between the months. And I do have a purl bump row. Again, I don't know how visible it is on camera. There's one here and one here. The last day of the month, I've been doing just Tunisian purl stitch all the way across to create a little ridge to indicate the beginning of the next month. So I do love how it's coming out. I love all the neutrals. If you don't remember or weren't here, this is the palette that we're doing. In the middle, like white is kind of the middle of the road. And then all the warm neutral tones are the hotter colors, with the more chromatic being the hottest. And then on the other end, the kind of grays and cool neutrals are the cool tones, with this navy blue being the coldest. I do think it's fun to work on. It's fun to see it come to light. They did have an historically bad blizzard on Christmas last year, so it's kind of neat that you can identified this one row, which is Christmas Eve, is the only row in the whole blanket that's going to be the darkest navy color. So it's kind of cool that easily identifiable when you look at the blanket. Obviously, I've still got a lot more work to do on this, but I am kind of restructuring and rethinking what Christmas gifts I'm going to commit to knitting this year based on the fact that this is one of them. And that's going to have to be a whole separate video. Like I said, I have way too much to talk about today, but I have been planning out my Christmas knits. This is a high priority one. One more thing I did want to mention about this is that I did a really, really terrible job on the edges. So I didn't do so bad on the Tunisian knit stitch or simple stitch sections, but for some reason, I am very bad at keeping track of Tunisian full stitch, because if you do Tunisian, you'll know that Tunisian full stitch, you kind of have this alternating between rows. It's 2 rows that repeat instead of 1, and the 2 different rows, you kind of skip the first stitch and then go in the last stitch, and then on the next row you'll do the first stitch and skip the last stitch to keep it even. And I've just done a terrible job at keeping track of that, and my edges are super messy on this blanket, and I don't think it's presentable. I don't like it. It's not gift worthy in my opinion. So my plan, I was thinking for a long time of ways that I could pick up stitches or go around the edge, and I just thought crochet isn't going to be tidy enough. Like, it's a very polished, tidy texture, and I think crochet would look funny on the edge. Picking up Tunisian stitches or knit stitches on the edge would take a long time, and I would have to think a lot about the mechanics of the corners. I'm not quite sure how to miter corners and how to do it continuously around a finished blanket. But then I thought, I think I'm just going to bind it like the edge of a quilt, like with my sewing machine, and bias tape. I'm just going to pick a color that kind of ties it all together, probably a solid, and just bind around the edges with the sewing machine, because I think that'll make it nice and tidy on the edges, and secure everything as well. You know, any of the ends that I've woven in will then have been sewn over a couple times on the edge, and that'll really keep it nice and tight. Yeah, so that's going to happen. If I didn't mention, I don't think I mentioned this time, I'm sure I've mentioned in the past, these are all Knit Picks palette fingering weight, and there's like a dozen colors here. If you are more interested to know more of the details, my Ravelry page does have a list of the colors that I'm using and the temperature range for them. But yeah, this is a top priority. I have been working on it, but not that much. And this is, it's not itchy. Like, I don't want to like speak ill of this yarn, but it's not like super soft. It's not super wash, right? So it's just a wool yarn, and after I work with it for like 4 or 5 rows, my hands start to get raw and I don't want to work with it anymore. So it's hard for me to do this for extended periods of time. And I've been finding that several of my projects have that sort of texture and have kind of been discouraging me from working on them, and I've been casting on new things just because I'm craving like a softer yarn to work with. Let's talk about the summer knits that are getting set aside. So although I was like not releasing any videos for the last month, I actually did try to film a couple and they just didn't work out. One of them I had like a challenge idea, and then I couldn't find the yarn. I know I have the yarn, I never found it. I kind of started something else and then it just didn't work out. And I also filmed some travel vlogs about my travel knitting. Now I've decided not to use them because there kind of wasn't much to say. It was mostly just footage of me knitting in different places. So I thought, I'll put some of that in here now so you can see it. But of course, I took my 2 vacations. I went with my mom on a cruise through New England and coastal Canada. That was really fun. I have talked about that on here already. I did do a haul video when I got back to show you all the stuff that I bought on that trip, which I'm very excited about. I'm already working with some of that. You'll see that in a few minutes. But I brought 3 projects on that trip and I only touched 1. I worked on the Luca cardigan the entire time. I was just like super gung-ho about it. I was very, very much enjoying it, and that was the only one I ever felt like working on, so that's just what I did. That one was an extremely portable one because it's using Lion brand Low Tide, which is a synthetic chainette yarn, and it's super, super lightweight. So that was really handy to just like keep in my backpack as we were walking around traveling, and then if I felt like taking it out to work on it while we were waiting for our lunch to come out or sitting at a bar having a drink, like it was super easy and accessible. So 10 out of 10 for my travel choices on that one. But that said, the second I got home, I suddenly didn't feel like working on it anymore. And I don't know what it was. It was like I didn't want to put it down the entire vacation, including like when we got home on the car ride back to like upstate where we live from New Jersey. And I was working on it the whole time. I kind of forgot to bring the right size needle to do the ribbing at the bottom of the body. So I jumped in and started doing the sleeves. And like as soon as I was home, I just didn't want to touch it anymore. I wasn't interested. The yarn was like bothering my hands. I don't know what it was. It weird mindset. I don't know. I was home for a week. I worked on a couple projects that I already had going. But when I went on my second trip, I decided to only take the Cottage, what is it called? Cottage crop ruffle. I don't know. It's that pretty ruffly, like sort of cottage core inspired crop. And again, this time when I went to Florida, I never have that much time to knit. Almost all of my knitting on that trip is always either in the car on the way to the airport, waiting at the airport, or on the plane. Like I don't really have much time to knit during the trip. Occasionally in the evening, if I feel like it before bed, I would do a couple rounds. But for the most part, it was just to keep me occupied during the actual travel bits, because when we're in Orlando, we fill our days with stuff to do, and I'm not carrying around my knitting. It's like the only time in my life when I don't bring knitting with me because I really don't have the time to work on it. So as of right now, let's look at those two projects, because even though I got super far on them and I was enjoying them both and I want them both finished, they're both kind of like lightweight, warm weather garments. They're both in like pastel colors, and I'm in full fall mode and I don't care anymore. So they're both getting sidelined until next spring. The Luca cardigan is mostly done. I did like within the last month kind of work on it for a while. I finished the bottom rib now that I am home and I have the right size needles. And then I did most of the rest of this. Literally, I've got like a couple rounds left of sleeve ribbing, and I'm still just unmotivated to work on it because it's not something I'll wear. Like I could spend a few days finishing this and putting my time into it and have it done, but then I wouldn't wear it for 6 months anyway, and that's not where my priorities are. So I gotta take my reusable needle tips off this because I want to have access to them this winter. But I'm gonna pack this up, and this is officially hibernating. I do use the hibernating function on Ravelry. So, you know, as I was saying, I swapped out some of my projects for the change of seasons. I had a few that were in the hibernating section from last winter that I put away in spring, and I pulled them out, and now they're active whips again, and vice versa. I'm just taking these in progress whips and putting them in hibernation, and I will think about them later. So here's my cottage core. What is it called? Got the pattern here. Hold on. Cottage core crop. I don't know why I thought it wasn't like cottage core. I thought it was just like cottage something. Whatever. This one I'm loving. Look at the strawberry stitch stoppers. It's such a summer vibe. Like, of course I love it and it's beautiful, but like I'm rejecting it. It's seasonally inappropriate. I got pretty far. I did separate for sleeves. This is a fingering weight. It's super soft. This is a linen blend from the old knit crate. I don't have the labels in here. But again, I always put all the information on Ravelry if you're curious. So this is really, really soft. I really like how the raglan increases on this one are very, very well thought out. It did make it kind of not complicated to work on, but you do have to really pay attention. There's a chart for which type of increase round it is, and there's like 4 or 5 different types. There are more for other sizes, but for my size there was only like 4 different types of increase, I think. But what I love about it is I've worked on raglans before where when they do the eyelet yarn over for an increase, but you don't increase every single round, it kind of looks uneven, like it kind of skips some. But she did a really good job of doing a yarn over even if there's not an increase, and then like decreasing elsewhere so that the stitch counts come out right, but it's a very consistent eyelet pattern, and I love it. But again, not something I plan on wearing until at least spring. So I'm going to put it away. It'll be something that I'm hopefully happy to see again when spring comes, and I'm halfway through it, so it'll be close to finished, but it's not for right now. I honestly don't even know if I've spoken about this one on here. This was like a very spur of the moment cast on. It's heavily modified. So this is made with Galler Yarns Inca Eco Organic. I got this when I was on the New York Fiber Trail earlier this summer. I had 2 skeins of it. I decided I wanted to make a leaf top. This is a heavily modified leaf top because I only had 2 skeins and it wasn't going to work. So I haven't finished this, but again, I kind of don't care. I mean, I have finished. I've bound off. I woven in my ends. I just need to sew on buttons and block it. But obviously, this is a super summer top. I don't care anymore. Like, I'm gonna sort through all these to reclaim my project bags and my stuff, and they're just gonna sit in the closet until warm weather again. So, I don't know. I get very cast on-y sometimes, especially the last couple weeks. I felt the same way. Like I want something new. I'm bored with what I have, or I don't like the options that I have. I've had days where I feel like every whip I already have going is kind of itchy, and I don't want to work with it right now, but I don't have a choice. And then I just say, well, yes, I do have a choice. I'm in charge. There's no rules. I can cast something on new if I want to. I've also had some guilt. I don't know. I guess guilt isn't the word, but just some qualms about my own time management, knowing that we're into October and having cast-on-itis. I'm just thinking it's not particularly practical for me to just keep casting on things for myself and working on things for myself. So when I get very cast-on-y, I've been casting on like winter accessories that are going to be Christmas gifts. So I'm actually, again, I've got so much to talk about today. I'm not going to bother, but I have finished like a couple beanies and a scarf and things that I'm going to give for Christmas. Similarly to last year, I'm going to do a video of everything I'm knitting for Christmas, because even though I've rethought it and I'm doing it differently than I did last year, for instance, I'm not going to try to do like 5 sweaters and 20,000 accessories. This year I'm just going to do like 30,000 accessories and like 3 sweaters. Whatever, we'll get to that. That's going to be a separate video. That's its own thing. We're still talking about summer. However, just mentioning for the record, I have other finished objects that I'm not even going to talk about today because, first of all, I don't know who's watching this and my family can be weird, but also I don't have time. I don't have time. So this is, it's like halfway through a row, so it's crunched up on the needles. My baseball bomber. Baseball season's over. Sadly, we actually weren't able to go to the last couple games of the year that we had planned on going to, the last 2 Syracuse games, because of our COVID diagnosis at the last minute. So we missed out on the last couple baseball games. I'm going to set it aside. Again, I'm just not inspired to work on it when it's not summertime. So this is as far as I got. You know, the whole gimmick with this was that I only worked on it during ball games, at ball games, and I did, or on the way. So like there were times when we were driving out of town to a ball game and I worked on it in the car for a couple hours on the way out of town, but I only worked on it on game day. I'm proud of it. It's from Poison Girls. It's called the Sweetheart Bomber, and it's really cute, sort of retro, like varsity jacket style. I think it's going to be really cute when it's done, but I think I'm just going to set it aside and do the same thing next year, continue to work on it at ball games, or maybe next year I'll feel like just finishing it and working on it at home. I don't know. I am doubting my own yarn choice. This is a Hobie Twister Solid, so I think it's an acrylic cotton blend, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 55 cotton, 45 acrylic. I chose it because it's lightweight. It's supposed to be like a little summer cardigan. That I don't think I was wrong about. However, it has no memory. It's acrylic and it's cotton and it's already stretching and like longer than I would have expected it to be. And all summer as I've been working on it, I've been thinking, I think once I get to the end, I am going to try to line it with fabric, like sew a shell lining just to go on the inside to kind of hold the fabric up, keep it from stretching indefinitely. And also, like, it's very lightweight. It's like even kind of see-through, which isn't what a varsity jacket would typically be. So yeah, I think I'm going to work, but again, that's a problem for next year, not right now. Okay, so I think one of the things that really like kicked me into fall was I had pre-ordered this Jimmy Bean's Fright Club box, which I did last year as well. I don't know if you remember. I never finished the project that came with it last year, but either way, I ordered it. Once it got here, I was very excited about everything that was in the box, but I didn't like the yarn colors together. It comes with 2 yarns, and I didn't like them with the pattern. I kind of didn't love the pattern it came with. So we'll talk. I changed a lot of stuff up. So first of all, this is like a pre-order. I don't know. They kind of pitch it like it's supposed to be like an Advent sort of thing, except when you open it up, the yarns aren't wrapped up. You can see the yarns right away. And it comes with a couple tools that aren't wrapped up, like an appropriate pair of circular needles and an appropriate crochet hook. And then it comes with all sorts of little notions and stuff that are separately wrapped. Like you're supposed to open them over time, but also you might need them for the project, some of them. So I don't really know. I always just like open it all at once, kind of like I'm doing a nitty fix. But it's a cute little Halloween themed box. The 2 yarns that it came with, oops, there's the crochet hook. I do like this kind. Got the kind of soft touch finish in the brushed metal hook. Set it over here. So it came with this knitted wit colorway Great Pumpkin. It's 100% superwash. It's sport weight, so it says 100 grams, 325 yards. It's really pretty, like super hyper Halloween. I really like this on its own. But then it also came with this Malabrigo, which is a DK Sport, also 100% superwash. I'm not sure. I think, is the colorway called Glitter? Because I disagree. I mean, that's what it says. You know, this color does not make me think of glitter. I don't get it. Either way, these 2 came together, and then they're meant to go together into a pattern that you get a download code. And it's a hood. I don't remember what the name of the hood is, but here it is. It's kind of a witchy pointed hood, which I'm not a super fan of. And then it's also striped all the way down, which is, again, a very witchy element. I don't like these 2 colors together. I don't think that they look good striped together. It's just not my taste, I guess. So I like them individually. I think that they're both pretty, and I'm going to use them in different things, but I didn't want to use them together. And it also came with a bunch of notions. So let's look at the notions. Well, there was a bunch of candy. I ate some of it. This is left. Candy bracelet, a little leather tag to sew onto a finished object, a cauldron that says Fright Club. The theme, since it was sort of witchy, they had this tarot card motif that showed up on a few things. So it's a needle gauge made of cedar, and it's got a little ruler at the bottom with that motif on it. Nice tape measure with a little yarn ball that looks like a crystal ball on it. A couple packets of wool wash, a little stitch marker with the same tarot motif on it. I think there was something else, but I think there was definitely a pair of knitting needles, but I'm already using them. I opened it up. I had all of the thoughts that I just described about the yarn colors and the pattern, and I wasn't sure about it. But I was in the mood for fall and Halloween. Like, this box got my wheels turning about fall, and at that point I hadn't officially decided to close out all my summer projects. So that was kind of the catalyst that made me decide to set aside my summer stuff and cast on something fall. And I wanted to cast on that hood because I was thinking about it, but also I didn't want to do it with those yarns. So I started looking through my stash and decided to cast it on with some yarns that I already had. I also decided to modify it a lot because I didn't love the striped pattern and I didn't love the pointedness. Like, I get that that's why it makes it Halloween-y, that it's like witchy with stripes and a pointed top. But I just truly don't think I'll wear it. That's not me. But I would like to have a hood. That would be nice to have a sort of cowl hood that I could use in the fall and winter. So I pulled out, I had this one skein from Longmeadow Farm. I believe I got it at the Tina Turner Knits yarn show in February in Rochester. I'm not sure. I know I went to the Longmeadow Farm booth at that time and bought a sweater quantity that I've already made a pullover out of. So this is Farm Yarn Plus multicolored. It is hand dyed. It's 100% wool. It's very woolly. It's very natural feeling. It's half Romney, half BFL. So it's super nice quality, and it's got this very fall color scheme to it, right? Like this natural color and then a few sort of neutral tones in between and this purpley color. And I really thought that this is more of the vibe that I'm willing to go for a hood, is like a natural wool fall tones, but maybe not like, you know, witchcraft. And I didn't have quite enough of this to make the whole hood, so I decided to try to pair it with something. And going through my stash, I found the leftovers of the only other yarn that I've purchased from the wool room at Longmeadow Farm, which was this undyed tweed that's a fingering weight. I just thought they went really well together. They came from the same farm, so they have some of the neutrals in the dyed one are very similar. I believe some of the neutrals are just undyed portions of this yarn, and I thought they went well together. So, and since I only had a partial skein of this, I made some alterations to the pattern to try to make it more like something I would wear. So the pattern has this nice like flower stitch detail along the edge, and it's intended to have 3 stripes of flower detail, and then it's striped all the way the rest of the time, but just like solid stockinette stripes. And then there's a little bit more of the flower detail at the very bottom edge. I decided I didn't want the thick witchy stripes, but I did do a few at the front here. Again, I know I don't have enough of the multicolored yarn to make it all the way through the project, so I used the solid undyed for the first and second stripe just to stretch out the colorful yarn. I decided to add a bunch of decreases here. I'm sure you can see it, because this is the sort of hood pattern that is basically just knit a tube and fold it over, and so the point would basically, let's imagine that this is where I started the decreases, so the point would basically be here. So I did save a lot of yarn from the multicolored just from cutting out like that much material, and I think it's hood shaped. It's a lot more head shaped now. I'm much more likely to wear something like this, but it's still kind of fun and fall stripey because of the natural striping in the hand dyed yarn. The striping is different on the neck because the circumference is different, but it is what it is. I still like it, and it's cute. And then once I get down farther, I think I have a while more to go, just solid. Again, there's supposed to be more stripes on the neck, but I've kind of just made decisions to cut them. I am going to do 1 or 2 more stripes of the tweedy yarn at the edge, at the bottom. And then this certainly needs a block because it's very, very curling over. It does have an I-cord edge here, which I think looks really nice, but you can't see it because it just curls itself away. So super pretty. I'm happy with it. It really jump-started my fall. But again, the last couple weeks, my hands have just been extra sensitive, and I really don't want to work with this 100% untreated wool. It's super nice, and I'm excited to have it, and I don't think it'll bother me to wear it, but just, you know, I'm kind of getting a wool callus on my knitting fingers. So much stuff. All right, let's look at this. This is my only finished object I'm going to show today, which seems weird because I do have a bunch, but time's a ticking. So Tony Lipsy released her vlog of making the Granny Pop V-neck, and I just thought it was so cute. And again, I was having fall FOMO. I was trying to work through my summer projects, and I just decided to do it. I just went through my stash and I found a couple yarns that I thought were kind of fall colors, and I decided to modify the Granny Pop V-neck so that every 3rd row was this variegated, because I didn't have, and I had 2 hanks of the variegated and like a bazillion of this solid burnt orange. It might look familiar. It is literally the same yarn I used to knit this throw blanket behind me. It's Lion Brand Jeans in the color Top Stitch. At some point, I found it on sale and I bought like 15 to 20 skeins of that. I feel like I've used it on 3 or 4 projects, and I've still got like 4 skeins to use. It's nice and soft. It's one of my favorite acrylic yarns that I've ever found to work with because it's incredibly soft. Like it doesn't feel like acrylic at all, and I do like the colors that it came in. I don't know if they still make it, actually. They might make different colors now, but I've had such a large stash of it. When I found it since I found it a couple of years ago on clearance that I haven't even been a little bit tempted to purchase more. Variegated is a discontinued yarn from Lion Brand. I'll repeat it. I know I've said it before, but if you haven't watched my videos before, I mean, like, first of all, welcome. I'm happy you're here. And if you have, I don't know if you remember, but I have this large stash. Everybody's aware of my stash. I made the video about it. It's grown significantly since then. Again, if you're interested, all the details are on Ravelry. I do keep track of my entire stash on Ravelry, but the bulk of my stash came from Lion Brand sales and Knit Crate sales before Knit Crate went out of business. So I do just have like tons and tons of stash yarns that are from those two companies, and most of them are discontinued, which is because Knit Crate went out of business. All of theirs are discontinued, but also like most of the ones I got from Lion Brand, I got because they were on sale because they were discontinued. So that's just going to happen a lot. This was a hand-dyed yarn from Lion Brand called Anya. I do not remember the colorway, but I just thought it was sort of fall-ish. It has this nice like brown variegated sections to it, as well as the teal and gray. And I do think it paired really well with this burnt orange. I like it together. This has not been blocked. It seems much more cropped than I thought it would be, but it's granny stitch. And it's all, it's not all acrylic. The tops, I have COVID brain fog, I swear. The jeans yarn is acrylic. I believe the Anya yarn is 100% superwash. But either way, I'm gonna probably steam block it since it's largely acrylic. I think that'll do the most good. I'm excited to wear this. I will probably bring this Rhinebeck weekend to wear, but I don't know. It's my only finished object for now. I have two projects here that should look familiar because I was working on them over the winter and then set them aside for summer. This one, oh, it's so cute, but I got so frustrated with this. Okay, this is, I forget what it's called. It's from the book Modern Crochet Sweaters by Janine Miska. It's called the Burning Embers Vneck. I'm making it out of Lion Brand Touch of Silk, a probably discontinued yarn that I have a lot of in stash. I really like it. It was kind of something I started towards the end of winter on a whim and then didn't finish before the weather got warm. The stitch pattern is pretty, but for some reason, when I started doing it on the sleeves, this is crocheted flat and the sleeves are crocheted in the round, and I wasn't doing it right. And I got like halfway through the first sleeve and I got annoyed because the texture was entirely different because I must be doing something wrong going in the round and not turning it. And I can't continue with it. I have to fix it because it's drastically different texture and it will certainly bother me. But I got frustrated and set it aside because I didn't know how to fix that. And then the weather changed and I didn't work on it. So I've pulled this out, but I haven't worked on it at all. But it is no longer hibernating. It's officially a whip again. Another official whip again is my Hermione's Room of Requirement sweater from Lee Sartori's Crochet Wizardry official Harry Potter book. We've talked about this one a lot. I got these yarns from the winter collection of Witchfire Fibers. Gorgeous collection that I really enjoy. I'm actually done with the pink now. There's no more pink in the whole sweater, so I guess I could take that out of the project bag. It's an extremely small project. It's worked on a 2.5 millimeter crochet hook, and it's an entire sweater for a me-sized person. So it's tedious. Since I pulled it out of storage, I finished the color work yoke, which I'm pleased about. The armholes strike me as quite small. I triple checked that I had done it correctly, and I have, and I think they will stretch a little with blocking. I tried it on and they do fit. I mean, I feel like I might eat my words someday, but I did everything correctly, and this is the size it's supposed to be, so I'm going to press on. But I did finish the yoke. Since I took it out of storage, I think I was not that far back, maybe an inch back. But again, 2.5 millimeter hook, everything takes forever. So now I'm on the trunk of the body, which this is the main color, and the whole body will be worked in this. This is going to be a very slow burn for me because I don't crochet as much as I knit, purely because I'm more experienced at knitting and I can do it without looking. So I have to pay more attention when I crochet, and I kind of got to be in a specific mood. So this sweater is just probably going to take the rest of my natural life, because I certainly want to have the finished object, which is why I started it, but I'm not particularly confident that I'm actually going to devote the time to doing it. This doesn't count. I'm not going to talk about this. This is just like a beanie that I'm making for somebody for Christmas. I'm not even sure who yet. I just have a whole list of beanies I want to make. So every time I get itchy cast on fingers, I just come into my stash and I try to pick a nice yarn that would make a beanie for somebody on my list. I mean, there's like 4 grown men that I plan on knitting beanies for, and my sexist little brain is like, just pick something beige. And I don't think I'm wrong. Again, I'm just going to talk about all that when I talk about my Christmas knitting plans. This one I'm very excited about, and it is nearly a finished object. It's not even attached to the needles right now. This is made out of another Knit Crate discontinued yarn, because this is everything I have. Vitalana Celestial. This is the colorway Ganymede, and it is 90% alpaca, 10% tencel. It is extremely drapey. I had earmarked this for a vest a long time ago, and I had actually, one of the days I was just putzing around planning my knits on Ravelry, planned to use it for this vest, which I'd kind of forgotten about. And when I was feeling very cast-on-y lately, looking at my Ravelry queue, I thought, this is a good seasonal one to do. A vest will be a lot quicker than a sweater this time of year, and I think I could complete it relatively quickly and kind of get the rush from doing a finished object. And I'm getting there. It certainly needs to be blocked. Again, it doesn't look so short when I'm knitting, but this is in brioche stitch, so it's going to stretch a lot with blocking. I have to sew the buttons on. I have pulled a handful of different button cards out of my vintage button stash because I'm not sure which ones I want to use. I will probably do some sort of vote in my Ravelry stories. Ravelry stories. Wouldn't that be fun? I meant Instagram stories. If you follow me on Instagram, I'm probably going to do a vote in my stories for like which buttons. I don't know if it'll settle it, but maybe it'll help me make up my mind. So this is the Ribsdale vest. It's so cute as a finished object in the pictures. Right now, I'm not sure, because the front won't close. I think it kind of just looks like Aladdin's vest, and that's not what I'm going for. I love the brioche. I love how structured the ribs look. It's super soft and drapey because of this alpaca yarn. I want to put some like sort of statement buttons on it. The ones I have are like shiny, and they're all shank buttons. I don't know. I'm not sure which ones yet, but I think it's really cute. The only knitting I have left to do is the armholes, and there's not actually any additional like ribbing or anything on the armholes, but you do pick up around and do an I-cord bind off just to kind of firm them up a little bit so they don't stretch out. So I love this one. I'm excited to have been working on it. It didn't take much time at all. I'm pleased with how it's come along so far, but I just have not, for the last like 2 days, felt like doing that I-cord around the armholes. So, and actually I had 5 hanks of the yarn, and I only used 3. This is what's left of the third, and I think this is enough to do the I-cord. So I have 2 left. So this will probably make another suitably neutral masculine beanie for my Christmas stash. All right, last whip, and I'm very excited about this one. I started it yesterday. I don't know, again, I just, for some reason, I'm not into my options because they're all so woolly and a little bit itchy, or I'm just bored with them. And I'm just having a hard time with my attention span lately. So I have 2 of these very large hanks. This yarn is quite thin but quite fluffy with a big halo, so it says worsted on the label, and that's what I'm going with. But the hanks that it came in, I don't know what size they are. Hold on. Got the tag right here. Oof. They're 8 ounces, which is 595 yards in each. So I got 2 of them. And I just felt like casting on something new yesterday. Again, I have felt this kind of like guilt about my mismanagement of my time. because I know I need to get Christmas stuff done. But I've been planning what I'm going to knit for Christmas, and I don't have the 3 sweater quantities I need to start on the big projects other than this blanket. And I'm planning on shopping for them at Rhinebeck, which is, today's Monday. It's at the end of next week. So I can't really start on those. And again, there's no rules. I can do what I want. So I just started a cardigan for myself because I really wanted to get to use this alpaca yarn. It is so nice and soft. It's undyed, but it's 2 different colors of alpaca wool marled together. I got this at Good Vibrations in St. John, New Brunswick. I really love it. Again, I started this last night. Can you tell I love it? I've been trucking away at it. I have a few more increased repeats for the raglan before I separate the sleeves. I have a feeling this one's going to go pretty quick because it's a very simple, straightforward pattern. It's actually a free pattern. Didn't know that when I clicked on it, but that was a nice surprise. It's got all the fall vibes and it's soft, and it's just really got my attention in a way that none of my other projects do right now. Like, I want to knit, but I don't want to knit what I have. So I keep compulsively casting on more stuff. It's not a problem, I guess. It's like, I'm very fortunate to be able to just cast on whatever, whenever I want, because I have such a large stash, and I know that. I'm also making myself feel a little bit better because I know I'm going to go to Rhinebeck, and while I'm going to try to control myself, I know I'm going to come home with some yarn. I'm going with a plan, planning on making a video about my Rhinebeck plan. That should be out the next week or so. But it does feel good to kind of like use stuff up and get stuff out of stash and start knitting on all of these things. Make a little room in my stash before I go shopping. I've been trying to not acquire more yarn lately. Like, if you notice, the only acquisitions I had in this were that Jimmy Bean's Halloween box, those 2 skeins. I paused my Yarnaceous Fibers subscription for a few months because I was like, I should save my funds and my space in my stash for Rhinebeck, because I know that it's gonna take some resources. Even though those are beautiful and I love getting them every month. So I think I probably will restart it next year, but I've just left my account active and paused for now. And of course, I did have all those acquisitions that I brought back from my first trip, which I've already talked about on the channel. So it's kind of just a chaotic little episode where I talked about 1,000 different project bags, and it doesn't look like I have a lot of finished objects to show for it, but I swear I have finished other things, and I've just got a lot of projects in motion right now. All right, well, I hope you are doing well. I hope not too many of you have been sick, although I feel like half the people I know have been sick, so I'm sure some of you have. I hope everybody's feeling better or doing better or having a gorgeous fall and enjoying this crispy, crispy weather. I love it here. And I'm glad you were able to join me today as well. I hope to see you back here in the next one. And until then, bye.